So let's continue on this script. So first thing I'm going to do is go back and finish inspecting this for loop which we started. So let's go and start the script again. Okay, sorry, let me quit from this debugger where the code was stopped, and I'm going to remove this first breakpoint, okay? Because it's just gonna make it easier for us to keep hitting this breakpoint. So let's go and run this script again. So now we're here. So what's happening here is we're iterating over row and column, and let's understand how. So we have rows here. Let's see what's in rows. So it gives us a number, right? So it's basically saying, what does range give us? Let's inspect everything. This is how you understand actually, right? So range rows gives us 0 to 4, meaning it will give us numbers starting from 0 up to 4. Now let's ask Grok what this does. In Python, what does this mean? Right, so let's just ask. So it creates a sequence of numbers starting from 0 going up to 4 but not including 4. Range start stop, so basically it starts and stops excluding the last number that you provided. And it's basically deep diving into what range does and what you can do with it, right? So now for us that's enough right now. So we start from now. If we're iterating through the row, why don't we just name this row in rows instead of I, because that's much more readable. And then also I'm just jumping in here and just saying column in columns, right? So now that makes it actually easy to read as well. So we're iterating from row, and when we're on that first row, so we jump into the first row and we go through all the columns on that row. So how does that look? If I go back to the file, we're jumping in the second row because first row is just a header, and we're going through all the columns because it's relatable, right? So it's the information on row 2 is belongs all the column in row 2 belongs with the same person, Jane Doe, right? So that's why I want to do that. And with that iteration, we're going through basically here all the columns, here all the columns, here all the columns. So that's what we're doing on these two nested ifs, right? So row, and then let's do column, right? So instead of I and j again. And then where else we had I and j? We got a cell value, we have I here, so I is row. And then yeah, that's pretty much it, right? Okay, let's go back up here. And then so when we do row, column, and then at this stage we are getting the value of the cell using this data frame.ilock method. Ilock method, where method is asking for us a row and a column. Ilock is not a method, so we're using a slicing here, I think. Let's just check that. We can inspect anything, right? We have that power. So let's go here. So we are in for j in range columns. We're here. I'm going to execute that. And now if we look at data frame dot ilock, so that is a indexer, ilock indexer. And if we just do, let's see if we can get a help on this. So you can do help data frame dot ilock. There's no help in ilock. Okay, let's just ask Grok again. What does do in pandas? Right, so let's just understand what it expects. ilock stands for integer location. It lets you select data by numeric position. Yeah, basically, I mean, we understand what it is, but I want to show you the tools you have for you to explore and dive deep into what's actually going on under the hood, right? So here again, same thing. We can reference an integer in this two-dimensional array, where based on the rows and columns, right? So based on the list or arrays, whatever we want to call them, and you can read this and try to understand more if you really want to. But for now, I think that's enough for us to understand. If I hit next here, so we should have our first cell value and TR001. So if we go back here, we have TR001. Now, if I do continue, we should have Jane Doe after that. So let's do continue. So we have row data. If I keep going down, next, 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 and then if I do cell value again, we should have Jane Doe. Sorry, we did continue on the first row. Sorry, we did breakpoint on the row, therefore we went through all the columns. So for that, what I can do to show you, I can add a breakpoint here. Then that means I'm stopping on every row and every column. So that way we can see Jane Doe. So let's do next, 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 next. Now cell value. So this should be the first value, and then now if I do continue, this should be the next values, because we haven't gone up here yet. We're still going through all the columns, because when we finish going through all the columns, then we go up here, right? So now let's do cell value. Still TR001 because this is my next line. It's not executed yet. Now we're executing that, and then if I go back, you can see Jane Doe, right? So that's what's happening here. And if I just do continue, that's gonna keep hitting these breakpoints inside the for loop. And again, I'm just going to pdb set trace, and then basically we're setting this to none, and then pdb set trace lambda none, pdb is not defined, import pdb, and then run that, and if I do continue, boom, so we print everything here. There are a lot happening in this script, much more than what I would like to go through, but I think it's valuable we continue down on this script just to understand what's happening here, specifically where we're printing a pretty comprehensive string here, and which is basically generating all this string print in the console. So we'll understand that on the next video.